Good morning, everybody. Good to see you again this year. You hear me well? Wait until you hear what I say, okay? Now, anyway, the organizer reminded me many times that I got to keep to my limit of 15 minutes, so we better get going. My presentation today is going to contain 3 core messages, and I'm going to talk about 3 topical issues. And it's a bit lengthy, the title is lengthy, but just focus on one word, balance. So I'm going to come back to that a few times in my presentation. Now let's get going. I start with strategic focus. I think over the past year, development in the field of advanced technology in the form of generative and agentic AI, in the form of virtual assets, and in the form of DLT, blockchain applications, is nothing short of breathtaking. It brings dividends. Dividends in terms of productivity, dividends in terms of distribution channels, and dividends in terms of customer satisfaction. Now, of course, everybody will know that dividends comes with a cost. The risk exposure lurking behind all these are things like cybersecurity. You're talking about things like ransomware. You have issues with online scams. You're talking about deepfake. And you have issues about service outage, like the cloud failure that we had only last month. So all these come together. For the regulators, they responded by ramping up measures to enhance oversight by the management. And they also ramp up efforts on improving accountability chain and finally on risk management. So the first core message is that development is paramount, but it's got to be balanced by regulation. I think this is something which is not new, and it's actually being said by a lot of my fellow regulators. But how do you do it in practice? In the second slide, we're trying to cite a number of milestone achievements that we've made in the last few years to just prove to you that we are walking the talk. Now, I start from the left. You can see that we have the Open API framework, which is in fact about data connectivity and data interoperability. Now, and the second one is the Cyber Resilience Assessment Framework, and which actually came into operation in January this year. And in August this year, we launched the AI cohort, which I'll come to in more details in a later slide. I won't elaborate here. Today, we are publishing the white paper on federated learning, which is a way of promoting cross-sector collaboration while safeguarding data privacy. And starting from next month, we're going to consult the industry on a revamp of GL8, which is the guideline on use of internet for insurance activities. And we hope to wrap up everything within 2026 and have this new guideline promulgated. And finally, we're keeping a very close forward perspective, keeping a close watch on the VA ecosystem development, and that will be covered again by another slide. Now, what's the importance about this? Is that you can see that we have divided them into green and orange. You can see that there is a very clear layering of orange and green. It is deliberate. It is about developing while focusing, without losing the focus on regulation. You can also see some hybrids, a combination of regulation and development. That's because we know as a regulator we can't do everything. So we have to leverage on the industry and sometimes beyond the industry to do certain things. So this is balance in action. Now, before I close this slide, balance in action has another aspect, which is in fact the second dimension of balance in action. Now, I have to borrow a line from the movie Blackberry. It says something like, perfect is the enemy of good, but good enough is the enemy of humanity. Now, that means when we do all these executions, we have to make sure that we don't aim for the flawless, risk-free solution. At the same time, We don't do things without looking at target outcomes, end game. So two-dimensional balancing. I can tell you that the second dimension is tougher than you think. Anyway, I'll go on to the three topical issues. The first one is cyber resilience. Starting from the left, normalize extreme weather. What does this mean? Now, I can tell you people in Hong Kong will know that black rainstorm and super typhoon now is synonymous with Dragon Boat Festival and Mid-Autumn Festival. We're going to have them every year. And if you don't believe me, just think back. We had two not exactly everyone is super typhoon, two typhoons, Regaza and Whipper. They came in July and September. But sandwiched between them is a very wet August. We have 4 black rainstorms bringing us 940 millimeters of downpour. So a very exciting summer. Now, we also broke 2 records so far this year already. We have 2 signal number 10 typhoons, basically Whipper and Regaza. That is a new record since 1964. Now, we have also 13 tropical cyclones visiting Hong Kong already this year. That is a new record since 1946. Now, that means we're not looking at inconvenience. We're not even looking at the problem. We are looking at the threat. And this is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. So we actually started a few years ago to work with the Federation of Insurers to try to create parametric products. And with those parametric products, we're trying to expand risk pool and create quality data. But we found that expanding risk pool is not so easy. It takes time. So we focus on quality of data. Then we found out that, in fact, the University of Science and Technology is, in fact, doing some very interesting urban microclimate predictive modeling. And they do things like predicting how heat and pollution, dissipation, and is going to affect the health of the citizens in the city. So we found that, in fact, that's quite interesting. So we invited them for a crossover. They gladly accepted. When we start working, we realized a lot of the data that we need actually resides in government departments. The 2 most notable ones are the Drainage Services Department. They prevent us from the deluge. And they also the Civil Engineering Development Department that looks after sea level rise and slope safety. They also found interesting because they are actually planning where to build new infrastructure to enhance resilience. So we have 3 parties working together. And finally, we got the actuaries' attention. And the Actuarial Society of Hong Kong is now interested in how we're actually going to use data in a forward-looking basis to predict impact of climate change, impact of extreme weather, which is not likely to be able to be accurately predicted using historical data. So this particular topic is interesting. It's balance in action, but it involves not just the regulator. It involves the industry, involves government. It also involves academia. It involves professional bodies. So I think it's another form of balance in action, which is quite interesting. Now, I've got to move on quickly. I have another like 6 to 7 minutes. This is the AI cohort, the second topical issue. It's quite easily dissected into left and right. On the left, we have the regulatory perspective, which is the GL8, the guidelines on use of internet for insurance service activities that I talked about earlier. We're going to add in some crucial elements like accountability in terms of board and management oversight, in terms of human in the loop. We're going to have issues covered on operational resilience, things like, for example, contingency planning, incident reporting, and then finally, we're going to have disclosure, for example, in terms of AI decisions and limitations. Now, in terms of the right-hand side, which is development, we have inclusive innovation. It's really a question about how to make sure that there is mutual empowerment and mutual support. In fact, if you look at the bottom of the slide, Hong Kong has about 158 insurers. 100 of them do non-life and another 70 do life insurance. Now, why the numbers don't add up? Because some of them do both. Now, but many of them are small and medium-sized insurers. And this is actually reflected in the survey findings that we have. We have 21% of insurers that have already drawn up strategy and implemented AI models. We call them the accomplished. We have another half that has a pilot or drawing up roadmap, thinking about it, we call them aspiring, and then another 26% don't care. Now, they are what we call the apathetic. So we know that we have to move the 80% towards the 21%. So we seek help from the insurers. In fact, we actually invited 7 core members to participate. They have to make commitments. They make commitments in terms of setting up a center of excellence in Hong Kong, creating jobs, nurturing talents, producing use cases, and also building capacity with us. In return, they get priority in regulatory attention when they want to implement their strategies. And of course, we give them good PR. Now, so they are the 21%. So how about those aspiring? We will support them with expert guidance. We're going to have an expert committee. And we are also going to give them free, to a certain limit, infrastructure support in terms of computing power. And we are also going to do them a lot of good by providing them with solution matching with all the service providers. We are hoping to bring them across the finishing line towards that 21%. And for the rest of the 26%, open invitation. Just come and listen, get enlightened, and do whatever you like. So this is another balance in action. This is balance in action because you can clearly see the regulatory and the developmental objectives working together. Now, on the third topical issues, I can only say that I'll be very brief here because I have the amazing last slide for you. In terms of VA and digital currencies, we are very much guided by our fellow regulators in terms of the building of a robust regulatory framework. To the extent possible, we'll try to be a user. We think that by using these technologies, we can enhance efficiency, reduce friction, and smart contracts also can make transaction easier, and DLT-assisted fraud detection will help us to reduce wastage in the system. And insurance is about helping development, taking risk, and sharing all these potential perils. And as an enabler, we'll try to make sure that we will support Web3 development and underwrite risk where we are able to, and so that the development can gain pace. Now, I've got 2 minutes. I think that's enough. Everybody will know that every time I say something in this particular event, I will get something out of the Star Wars franchise. To make it easier to remember, so you bring back and we look forward to what I'm going to say next time. So last year, I brought you Din Grogu, which is the infant being held in the hand of this armored bounty hunter. Now, this year is the bounty hunter himself. I bring you Boba Fett, the Mandalorian. Now, why Boba Fett? He's not even handsome. You can't see his face. Now, Boba Fett is important because it's an anti-hero. What is an anti-hero? An anti-hero is somewhere between a hero and a villain. Neither purely good or purely bad, but anti-hero has some very interesting attributes. They focus on doing good. They are popular. And finally, they do things in an unorthodox way. Now, some of the other anti-heroes which are famous are Batman and Deadpool. Now, you can imagine what kind of people we're talking about. I believe, as a regulator, we have something to learn from anti-heroes. We have to focus on common good. I'm 1 minute over. We have to focus on common good. We have to have a sympathetic motivation. We have to listen, engage, and we have to accommodate. But finally, and most importantly, we have to make sure that we question or even break traditions or norms when circumstances justify. It's really about doing the right thing at the right time. Now, talking about doing the right thing at the right time, remember, 7th of December this year, go out and vote. And that is doing the right thing at the right time. With that, I see you again next year.